The day I found out I was pregnant, my heart felt like it might burst with happiness. My husband, Armin, held my hands and whispered promises into my ears, promising me a life full of love and laughter. Everything seemed perfect. Our little apartment, our dreams, and the life we were about to bring into the world. Or so I thought. From the very beginning, my mother-in-law, Roxana, hovered over us like a shadow. She smiled at me in public, charming everyone with her elegance and warmth, but behind closed doors her words dripped with venom. "A baby girl is lovely," she would say with forced sweetness, "but you know, a boy carries the family name, the family legacy." I tried to laugh it off, assuring her that any child would be loved and cherished, but deep down her disappointment was a silent blade cutting into my joy. As the months passed, her obsession became unbearable. She scrutinized every ultrasound image, every tiny kick, every move I made. Nothing I did could satisfy her. Armin seemed blind to it, or perhaps too timid to challenge his mother. I felt trapped between the man I loved and the woman who had raised him, who seemed intent on controlling every aspect of my life, even the life of my unborn child. The day finally arrived. I labored for hours, exhausted and terrified, until the cries of my newborn filled the room. When I saw her tiny face for the first time, a rush of love overwhelmed me. She was perfect, soft, warm, alive, and I named her Anya. But the moment Roxana entered the room, everything shifted. Her eyes, cold and calculating, skimmed over my daughter as though appraising a gemstone only to find it flawed. "A boy," she whispered to Armin, her voice low but sharp. "Why isn't it a boy?" Armin's face tightened and he tried to soothe her. "She's beautiful. Mom, she's perfect. Perfect." Roxana's laugh was hollow. "A boy would have been perfect. She's just a girl." The words pierced me deeper than any pain of labor. I felt my joy shrink into a trembling shadow. The nurses cooed at Anya, but Roxana ignored them, her gaze fixed on her son. I wanted to scream, to tell her she had no right to diminish my daughter's life with her bitterness. But I had no power, then only a raw, aching sense of fear I couldn't name. That evening, she came to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I think it's best if Anya stays with me for a few days," she said, her voice sweet but firm. "I can help you adjust. You need rest." I hesitated, clutching my daughter to my chest. Something about the request felt wrong. "Just a few days," I repeated, hoping to convince myself, but I had no idea those words would mark the beginning of a nightmare I couldn't yet imagine. I left the hospital trusting her, thinking it was a temporary arrangement. I pictured her gently rocking Anya, singing lullabies, watching over her as any grandmother would. But in the back of my mind, a tiny, uneasy thought gnawed at me, a feeling I tried to dismiss. That night, alone in our apartment, I stared at the empty crib. The silence was deafening. Anya should have been here. I should have been holding her, counting her tiny fingers, listening to her soft breaths. Instead, there was only the bitter taste of unease. My heart whispered warnings I couldn't yet understand. Something was wrong. And somewhere, behind a locked door and a sweet, calculated smile, Roxana was weaving a plan that would shatter my world completely. A plan born from obsession, envy, and a hunger for a son that I could never provide. I had no idea that the life I thought I had built, the love I had trusted, was about to be ripped from me in a way so cruel it would leave scars on my soul forever. The first night without Anya was unbearable. The apartment felt hollow, every corner echoing the sound of her absence. I tried calling Roxana, my voice trembling with fear, but she answered with a calmness that made my blood run cold. "She's sleeping well, Beta," she said, her tone deceptively gentle. "Don't worry, I'll take care of her. You need rest. Rest." The word mocked me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every second, every heartbeat was consumed by a single, desperate thought. Where is my daughter? 2 days later, Roxana returned, carrying a baby in her arms. I felt my heart leap, relief washing over me until I saw her face. This child was not Anya. She's beautiful, isn't she? Roxana cooed, holding the baby toward me. I thought you'd love her. I stared, frozen, my stomach twisting. This isn't my daughter. My voice cracked. Roxana's smile never wavered. Of course it is, she said, her eyes glinting with cold amusement. Why would I lie? This is Anya. A wave of panic overtook me. I reached for the baby, searching for familiar features, for the tiny mark above her eyebrow, for anything that belonged to my child. Nothing matched. My hands trembled, my mind screamed, No, you can't do this. That's not my baby. Armin entered at that moment, tired and worried. What's wrong? He asked, seeing me recoil. She's not mine. I pleaded, tears blurring my vision. You have to see, this isn't Anya. This isn't my daughter. Armin frowned, confused and torn. Roxana stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. She's just overwhelmed. Roxana said sweetly, It's normal. You've just had a long day. This is Anya, beta. Look how beautiful she is. I felt my heart shatter all over again. My husband's gaze wavered between me and his mother, doubt creeping into his eyes. I could see it, the seed of mistrust, the subtle doubt that made my blood run cold. Days passed, each moment a torment. Roxana insisted that I bond with this child, showering her with gifts and affection, all while subtly undermining my instincts. I wanted to scream, to fight, to expose the truth. But Armin's hesitance and Roxana's cunning made me feel powerless. Then, one night, I saw something that made my world tilt. I had snuck to the nursery in the in-laws' house, hoping to catch a glimpse of Anya. What I found made my heart stop. Behind a locked door, in a room no one spoke about, lay a tiny baby, my baby. My Anya, my own flesh and blood. She cooed softly, reaching her tiny hands toward the bars of her crib. And in that instant, the betrayal cut deeper than any knife. Roxana had done it. She had swapped my daughter for another child, her son, the child of Armin's mistress, simply because she wanted a boy. My world crumbled around me. Every promise, every trust, every moment I had spent believing in family was a lie. I confronted Armin the next morning, my voice shaking with fury and grief. She took Anya, she replaced her with this child. She's alive, Armin, I saw her. Armin's face drained of color, his lips pressed tightly together. He opened his mouth, closed it, and finally said, I don't know. Maybe you're imagining things. Roxana watched from the doorway, feigning concern, her smile sharp and deliberate. She had already won. I was isolated, doubted, and powerless. That night I cried myself to sleep, clutching a blanket that smelled faintly of my baby, wishing I could hold her close, whisper promises, and shield her from the woman who had stolen her. My heart was broken, my soul weary, but a small ember of determination sparked deep inside me. If Roxana thought she could take my daughter, manipulate my husband, and destroy me, she was gravely mistaken. One day I would reclaim my Anya. One day the woman who had shattered my life would face the consequences. And that day, I vowed, would be sweet, devastating, and unforgettable. The days that followed felt like living in a nightmare I could not wake from. Every corner of the house, every photograph, every smile from Armin felt like a lie carefully painted over my grief. I was surrounded by people who should have loved me, yet none of them believed the truth I carried in my heart. My daughter, my Anya, was alive, and she was trapped, hidden away by the woman who claimed she had only my best interests at heart. I drifted through my days in a haze of despair, barely eating, barely sleeping. The fake Anya, Roxana's son, was brought to me repeatedly, cooing and gurgling as though he belonged, as though I could feel something maternal for him. I forced myself to smile, to cradle the child, even as every fiber of my being screamed that this was not my baby. Each touch, each laugh, each fleeting glance of recognition that should have been there for my daughter tore me apart. At night, I would wander through the darkened corridors of the house, retracing the steps I had taken when I first saw my real Anya hidden in that locked nursery. I memorized the placement of the furniture, the squeak in the floorboards near the door, the faint creak of the hinges that had betrayed Roxana's careful secrecy. I began jotting down notes in secret, small details that might help me later. Every detail mattered. Every observation was a weapon. One afternoon, while tidying up in the kitchen, I overheard Roxana speaking to the maid in hushed tones. "The girl mustn't see Armin. If he gets too attached, everything will unravel," she said. Her voice was sharp, commanding, but there was fear under her arrogance, a fear that someone might uncover her plan. My heart raced. Could she be afraid of exposure? Was there a weakness I could exploit? That night, I confided in a loyal friend, Tara, who had always sensed the tension in my marriage. I whispered my fears, my suspicions, my desperation. She held my hands, her eyes fierce with determination. "We'll find her," Tara said. "We'll get Anya back, and when we do, she'll never be able to hurt you again." With Tara's help, I began piecing together the truth. Roxana had carefully manipulated everyone: Armin, the household staff, even the mistress. The swap had been meticulous, executed with the precision of someone who had thought of every possible obstacle. And yet there were cracks in her armor, tiny inconsistencies, small acts of negligence, and moments where her arrogance blinded her to the obvious. I began to plan. Every meeting with Roxana became an observation mission. Every interaction with Armin became a test to see how deeply the deception had taken root. I knew that direct confrontation would not work. Armin's love for his mother, his fear of conflict, and his need to believe in her perfection made him a barrier I could not yet overcome. I needed strategy, patience, precision. At the same time, I found solace in the secret moments when I could see my real Anya. Hidden behind a curtain, through a cracked door, I watched her tiny fingers curl around the blanket I had left for her, listened to her soft coos, and memorized the unique way she laughed. Each observation fueled my determination. Each stolen glimpse of her innocence hardened my resolve. The pain of separation was unbearable, yet it became the fire that forged my plan. I could no longer be the helpless, grieving mother. I would become the storm Roxana never saw coming. I would reclaim my daughter, expose her lies, and ensure that the betrayal that had shattered my world would come back to haunt her in ways she could never forget. For the first time since the swap, I allowed myself a spark of hope, a dangerous, electric thrill that mingled with my sorrow. Revenge was no longer a distant thought. It had become a necessity. I would wait, I would watch, and when the moment was right, I would strike. And when I did, the world would finally see the truth. The day I had been waiting for finally arrived. Months of planning, observation, and quiet determination had led to this moment. I wasn't the frightened, powerless woman Roxana had once dismissed. I was a force she could not ignore. A mother who would stop at nothing to reclaim what was hers. I arrived at her house under the guise of reconciliation. My face was calm, my voice soft and submissive, just as it had been when I first met with her after the swap. But inside, a storm raged. Every step I took, every word I spoke, was calculated. Roxana, ever proud of her cunning, welcomed me with her usual icy charm. "Beta, it's good you're here. Come, let's talk," she said. Her smile was sharp, her confidence unshakable. Or so she thought. I allowed her to lead me to the nursery, the same room where Anya had been hidden for months. My heart pounded as I stepped closer to the crib, where my daughter lay, tiny and fragile, her innocence untouched by the cruel games played around her. My eyes locked on hers, and in that instant, the world shrank to just the two of us. She reached out her tiny hands, and I gathered her into my arms, feeling the warmth of her body, the soft rhythm of her heartbeat. Relief, joy, and fury mingled in a single, overwhelming wave. Roxana's eyes widened, a flash of fear crossing her face. You can't," she stammered. "This is impossible. She's mine now." "No, wait." I held Anya closer, my voice calm but lethal. "This is my daughter, and you have no claim over her. You stole her, lied to everyone, and betrayed the people who trusted you. Today it ends." The truth, carefully documented over months, was revealed in a single, decisive act. Tara, waiting outside with our allies, brought forth the evidence. Photos, videos, testimonies from the household staff, and even confessions captured in moments Roxana thought no one was watching. Every lie she had spun unraveled in an instant, her carefully constructed world collapsing like a house of cards. Armin arrived just in time to witness it all, his face, pale and conflicted, softened as he saw Anya in my arms, alive and safe. The shock of realizing his mother's betrayal and his own passive complicity hit him like a blow. Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, I had no idea. I'm so sorry." Roxana, once so commanding, was left speechless, exposed and powerless. Her pride crumbled as neighbors, relatives, and staff bore witness to the truth she had tried to bury. For the first time, I saw fear and regret in her eyes, emotions she had never allowed herself to feel. I didn't gloat and I didn't shout. I simply held my daughter close, letting the silence speak louder than any words could. The pain, the months of grief, and the betrayal were acknowledged in that quiet moment. And in that same moment, I let Roxana understand the weight of what she had done without lifting a finger to strike, without raising my voice. The justice was complete. Armin, finally confronting the depth of the deception, embraced Anya and me, promising to protect us and never let anyone manipulate our family again. The mistress, who had played her role in Roxana's twisted plan, was quietly removed from our lives, her influence eradicated without public scandal, though the humiliation was felt deeply in her social circles. As we left the house, Anya giggling in my arms, I felt a profound sense of closure. Roxana could no longer control me, my husband, or my child. She had lost her power and I had reclaimed mine. I had turned grief into strength, betrayal into strategy, and love into an unbreakable shield. That night, I tucked Anya into her crib, watching her breathe peacefully. The nightmares of the past months seemed distant now, replaced by a quiet confidence and an unshakable bond. I had lost nothing that truly mattered, and I had gained everything: my daughter, my dignity, and the knowledge that no one could ever take them away again. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I smiled freely, knowing that the sweetest revenge was not anger or cruelty. It was the restoration of what is rightfully yours, and the peace that follows.